don't need to charge the keyboard separately.
What's a charge for it?
John, you don't need to charge the keyboard separately to the screen, to the tablet.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are we starting? Good evening, everybody. Good evening to the members of the public, and welcome to full council. Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council on 25th of July 23 will be held on Zoom. Look at housekeeping. Can you please put your phones on silent or on vibrate? Please, include yourself. Okay. So item 1 on the agenda. Any apologies?
Yes, unfortunately, we've got quite a few apologies. I think it's the holiday season, isn't it? So we've got Councillor Kelly Wilson, Palmer, Bedford, Hussain, Ossamilly and Stevens. So apologies.
Thank you. So we can take item 2 on the agenda to the any councillors' declarations of interest. Any councillors' declarations of interest? Take item 3 on the agenda to approve the minutes of the last meeting. This one, minutes of the full council meeting, Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council, held in Sports Hall at Newton Pavilion on the 23rd of May 23. You've all had your minutes and possibly all read them. Any discrepancies on page 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'll take that as everybody's read them. All in favour of approving these minutes?
Noted, Chair.
So take item 4 on the agenda, public speaking. We have a member of the public, excuse me. We have a member of the public, Roger Bradbury, here to speak on item 10. Can I just say to all members that you'll be able to ask any questions after he's spoken.
When you come to that
when we come to the item,
agenda, if there are more questions,
yeah.
But as you know,
yeah.
It's for clarification.
It's for clarification, right. So there'll only be 3 minutes speaking on this item by members of the public, which will be timed. I'll give you a notice when it's like 30 seconds ago. Is that okay?
Chair, where would be the best place for I wonder if it would be most sensible for Roger to either sit next to Ron or sit in this seat here, just so that we make sure he's on the camera.
Do you want to come up to here?
Is that all right?
Thank you, Roger. Just stay there. You're in front. You can stand if you want to. Stand if you want to.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Roger Bradbury. I'm Vice Chair of the Water and Residents Association, which is to highlight the parking issues. Although we're all aware of the issues, illegal, inconsiderate, antisocial parking in Bletchley and Fenny Stratford feel the need to highlight them again. This has been ongoing for a long time now. We do not seem to be any nearer to solving the problem. We are using this occasion to seek the council's advice the best way forward to try to resolve the problem, to let the local residents know that Water and Residents Association is trying to address this. The initial area of concern, as we all know, is the Queensway, with no possible solutions forthcoming. The parking seems to be a free-for-all, and the parking wardens appear to have little effect in coming to grips with the situation. A note of thanks to Councillor Ronfay for his continued endeavours to highlight this. I've been made aware that West Bletchley Parish Council, working alongside BPARA, have in place a parking education officer. Initially engaged on a part-time trial basis for 3 months, the trial was so successful, he is now engaged full-time. He also visits schools to raise the problem of inconsiderate parent parking. I understand on his patrols, he also deals with reports on other hotspots, for example, fire tipping or similar socially unacceptable issues. We are proposing that, subject to further investigation by Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council officers, and a similar role be considered for us locally. We appreciate the current financial budget limitations, but we are aware that local grants are still being maintained. For your information, please see the accompanying background document on behalf of COBRA concerning the parking issues. Thank you for the opportunity to highlight these once again.
Thank you. Thanks very much. We'll have a chat about that at item 10.
Chair, there was a rather noisy interruption then, and I have got a printed copy of Roger's representation, so I'll pass those round, those who didn't manage to catch everything. No, that's fine. That's fine. Keep going. You've got 3 minutes.
Okay, so we'll take item 5 on the agenda. To note, casual vacancy in the Fenny Stratford ward and Eton South ward, and arrange for co-option.
Yes, so members are aware that we had 2 resignations following the annual meeting in May. The public did not demand an election, and therefore the council is now free to co-opt to the casual vacancies at Fenny Stratford and at Eton South ward. And we advertised the casual vacancies in the newsletter, which went out this month. We've had some interest, but at this stage, nobody's put themselves forward for co-option. So this item will stay as a standing item on a full council agenda, and we'll continue to promote the opportunity for potential new councillors to put themselves forward for co-option via our social media channels and newsletters and so on.
Okay.
That's just a noting.
Just a note. So, take item 6 on the agenda to elect additional members to the committees or working groups. 1, community committee, there's 2 vacancies. If any councillors want to join? The councillors?
It would be very helpful if any councillors who are not on committees would consider joining committees that they haven't already joined. I suspect that most of the people who are here at the meeting tonight are already on committees, but not everybody. So if anyone wishes to speak.
Yes. We've not got.
Yeah, sorry. Am I still a member of any of these committees?
Yes.
Just let me just double check. On the minutes.
I should have known. And we've also got 3 vacancies on the environment and planning committees. We've got the finance committee, 3 vacant seats, and the Sycamore building and working group committees, and the neighbourhood plan steering group. Welcome any additional members.
So Councillor so correct, you weren't elected because you weren't here at any of the applications. So if you would like to stand for election on any of those business, that could be considered now, Chair. That's what you're going to do.
So we've got finance and governance, we've got neighbourhood plan, Sycamore House.
So the committees are finance and governance, environment and planning.
I was on those,
Yeah.
and I think I was
Community.
vice chair at some point, yeah. Finance and the environmental one.
Would you like to go back on that?
I'm happy to pick that up again.
So that's environment plan.
Finance and governance. So it's just make sure everyone-
Is everybody happy for Councillor Axel to go on to the finance and governance and the back on the environment and planning? All in favour?
Thanks very much.
Chair, with regard to the neighbourhood plan steering group, we do still need more councillors on that group. Although we have 4 councillors on it, 5 councillors on it, given that one of them is the chair of council and that one of them is double-hatted, it is proving quite difficult to get councillor attendance to the steering group. So I would urge any councillors to reconsider joining the neighbourhood plan steering group if they wish to.
I think it's very important that council understand where we are with the neighbourhood plan steering group, and we're getting to a critical point with that plan now, and we desperately needing the rest of the councillors to engage with this process, because if you don't finish this plan off, then obviously, we haven't got a plan for Bletchley and Fenny Stratford. So I urge that any of the councillors that are in Bletchley and Fenny Stratford, especially the Central Bletchley and Fenny Stratford, to join the neighbourhood plan steering group. We've got lots of things to finish off, but we're at a critical stage right now. We just need to engage with the process. Axel.
Chair, how many meetings are there for the Sycamore Buildings Working Group and Committee and the Neighbourhood Plan Steering Group?
The neighbourhood plan steering group meets monthly. The Sycamore Buildings Working Group has met on an ad hoc basis as business.
I'm not sure whether I was in the last one, but I was in the previous ones.
And because neither of them are committees, or it's a steering group and it's a working group, the meetings are all either hybrid or entirely online.
In that case, I'll be putting myself forward. Yeah. Good.
So that's the Sycamore House and neighbourhood plan. And those in favour for Councillor Axel to go on to the neighbourhood plan and the Sycamore Building Steering Group?
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Everybody else?
I'll run neighbourhood plan.
Thank you.
All in favour of Councillor O'Rourke going on to the neighbourhood plan? Thank you very much. Everybody else? Keith?
Reasonable.
No? Okay.
That's fine, that's great, thank you very much.
You've got some guys
Yes,
anyway.
excellent.
All right, brilliant. So we take item 7 on the agenda to elect a council representative for the Community Advisory Board, Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council, Town Deal.
Would you like to speak to that?
Thank you very much.
Members will remember that the Town Council put forward a motion to the Town Deal asking for a Community Advisory Group to be set up to inform the decision making for the Town Deal Board, and that was discussed at the last Town Deal Board meeting and approved, and an advisory group has been set up with terms of reference. The first meeting of the group will be on 31st of July, and I know some members of council have been asked to attend the group in wearing various different hats. The town council is also entitled to one representative on the community advisory group. So I've discussed this with the chair, and the proposal is that the chair should be elected as representing the town council, with the opportunity to for him to nominate a substitute if he's not able to attend the meetings. So that needs to be approved by council if that's agreeable to you.
Any suggestions?
Or
Any suggestions from councillors?
I'll propose a chair.
Or are we going to go with
I prefer you do it.
as a chair? Too much, getting too busy. With it.
Oh,
Anyway, so the proposal is the chair. The proposal is the chair. Thank you very much, Mr. Rook. The proposal is the chair to go on to the advisory board committee. All in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions?
You've been here long enough.
you might find yourself attending the first meeting next
Oh,
it's during the chair's holiday. We'll see.
So we can take item 8 on the agenda to note the minutes from the recent meetings of committees of the council and to consider any recommendations within. So item 1, minutes of Tuesday, the 6th of July, the Employment and Policy Committee.
There aren't any recommendations within those, Chair, so they're for noting.
So there's for noting. If anybody's got any questions, they're for noting.
Chair, is it 6th of June?
6th of June.
Yes.
6th of June. Did I say?
6th of June. It's July.
Hello? What's in June? Okay, that's the noting. So item 2, to minutes of Tuesday, the 20th of June, the Finance and Governance Committee. Again, is that for noting?
It's also for noting, but there is a recommendation in those minutes, agenda item 29.1, which is to adopt a revised LGPS discretion policy. The only difference in that policy is that the contact details have been changed from beyond contact details. It's a formality really, but it needs to come to council. So we'd ask full council to approve that recommendation.
So can I ask full council to approve the recommendations? All in favour? Anybody against?
No, I declare an interest, Chair.
Okay.
Excuse me, I declare an interest at the committee meeting. Well, I certainly can't vote now.
I'll note that in.
I'll note that. Thank you very much. So all in favour? All in favour? All in favour? Look, all in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions? Item 3 on the agenda, the 27th of June 23, the Community Committee.
Again, Chair, there aren't any recommendations within those.
So all in favour of noting? All in favour? Item 4, minutes of the Tuesday, the 11th of July 23, Environmental Planning Committee. Item 1, with respect to reference number 19.
Yes, would you like to speak to
Yes,
that,
please.
Chair? That item concerns a community infrastructure scheme, and it was resolved to recommend to full council that an application be made for a community's infrastructure application to be put forward for solar panels on the pavilion. Now, because that was the first project that had been identified for the scheme, and the meeting was only last week or the week before, we haven't had time to work on the proper application. So I feel that full council doesn't really have enough information about that scheme to make an informed decision. And so I would suggest that approval of that application is delegated to the Finance and Governance Committee, which is due to be held on the 22nd of August, and that would still allow that application to be submitted within the timetable required by Milton Keynes City Council.
Please. Chair, would it be helpful if we got an indication from the council whether they would support that if it's approved by Finance and Governance?
Any recommendation from full council? Councillor?
To be clear, this is about applying for a scheme to support with the cost of installing the solar
Yes.
panels, right?
I don't know, you were at the meeting, would you like to speak?
Yeah, it concerns solar panels on the roof here. We didn't know the cost, and we still don't know.
Yeah.
And that's hence, if we can refer it to the Finance and Governance Committee, then they can then approve the application. It still will come back to council for formal approval at the end. But I just felt that it would be helpful if we got the members of the council to give an indication of whether they would support that sort of an idea.
Thank you, Keith. I'm wholeheartedly in support of this going forward.
Don't forget, it's not the full cost of the council, it's sort of 50-50. We're getting a grant of 20,000 and then we
Up to.
or whatever, up to 20,000. So it's not a full cost of the council anyway. So we've got a grant of up to 20,000 to spend. So whatever the cost is for that, we have to back 50-50 split really, isn't it, Keith? You know, so obviously those are the meeting.
Anybody else? Councillor Rock? Anybody else? So are we in support of this application?
So you're in support of the application and also bring the recommendation for Finance and Governance to sign it off.
All in favour? So item 2, in respect of the minutes of reference 21 concerning Newtonese football pitches, it was resolved to continue to pursue the interests of clubs and negotiate the best possible arrangements for the forthcoming season, with a view to take a proposal for a decision at full council. That should have been on the 25th of July. Today. Negotiations have continued with other clubs, but officers are not yet in a position to present a costed proposal to council. So it is recommended by the clerk that the approval of this item is returned back to Finance and Governance Committee for the 22nd of August. Keith?
I support it.
Anybody else? Axel?
Yeah, I support as well.
Yeah, support.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
So all in favour of that proposal? Item 9, to review the comments of planning and licensing applications to be considered by Milton Keynes Council. Item 1. Item 1 is a Travis Perkins site 64 to 66 and 70 Simpson Road? Simpson Road, which is a full application for demolishment of existing units and to erect of 4 apartment blocks comprising of 98 units with associated landscaping and parking. Now, as I
Finish.
I'll let the clerk speak on this to start off with, and then I'll come to you.
Today.
I'd just like to explain that this planning application was included on the agenda for the Environment and Planning Committee, and it specified on the agenda that it fell outside the remit of that committee because of the scale of the application. However, members were very unhappy with aspects of parking and access. Therefore, the objection that was made due to an error, really. The objection that was agreed at that committee meeting, which I wasn't present at, was that submission objecting to the development was put in, even though it fell outside the remit of the committee. Since then, I think there is more information available on the planning portal, and therefore I wondered, this has been included again on the agenda, to either approve what was said at environment and planning, or to consider whether any further comments should be made by full council to in respect of this development, which is a very significant development and will have a number of impacts on the surrounding area and in general.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I've received, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Clark. I've received several communications from concerned residents. I am in Simpson Road, but I'm not directly affected by this development, just Wales. But as being a neighbour and a member of that little community in Simpson Road, I've received various comments from residents, especially those who are directly opposite or next to the development. And the concerns are obviously during the deconstruction and reconstruction or erection of the new development, the impact that has over a sustained period, because it is such a big development, there will be a lot of impact while these building works are going on. But then once that new development is in use by residents, the impact that these 98 units will have, and basically more than 100 people that will now reside in that neighbourhood. The traffic hasn't been considered enough. It is already a super busy street. There are currently no double yellows and people park, so sometimes you can't really get through and traffic gets held up. There are no parking spaces, even though some of them are now included in this, the residents' concerns, or the expressed concern by the residents were such that it's not enough, and the developers are woefully underestimating the impact limited parking spaces and joint, what's it called, the shared transportation scheme will have. Now, residents are supposedly sharing transportation with each other. Plus, and this is a big one that comes up quite a lot, there is no additional provision for public services in that neighbourhood or in that area. The local GP surgery is absolutely oversubscribed. You can't get anything from them between Monday and Wednesday. So people are already struggling dramatically getting help, and are referred to urgent care instead. Dentistry is not available on the NHS unless you have school children. You're very lucky. Now, assuming that some of these residents will be new families, as well as the other new development, which is directly opposite my home, also has a lot of new people in there. There is no capacity in the system for traffic, people using public services, or even parking. Thank you for listening to me. That was the comment I wanted to make, and I hope I got it across in a concise way.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, because at the other meeting, I asked for a traffic impact to be looked at on the Milton Keynes Council, and we asked for that way back as well, a traffic impact policy, and it hasn't been done anyway. So I feel we still need that before we can make a decision, because Milton Keynes Council is supposed to have done that way back when this first come up. This has come up before.
Just to remind everyone that there are a range of documents on the planning portal, including transport assessments and transport plans, which are all there and available to be looked at. Objections that you may choose to make must be made on material planning considerations. So you may feel that the traffic, the issues of traffic and parking haven't been adequately addressed. And I have noted myself that on the documents, even the highways department agree that this planning application is not compliant with parking standards. But there is information about traffic. There has been work done. There are documents on the website.
One additional comment, please. I've looked through a lot of these documents over the last, I don't know, year and a half or however long this has been in the pipeline for, and I see concerned residents posting comments to the King's Council planning officers, which don't seem to be responded to in any way, which is sad to see that despite consultations, the views of the local residents are not being taken into account as far as I can see. I'm happy to be corrected on this, but last time I checked about a month ago, there's people commenting, being very concerned. Yes, there are some research that's done about parking and traffic, but it's like it's been done. And one of the recommendations that was buried in the annex on the last page was to prevent residents from parking, or anybody from parking, in front or near that crossing, which means that there's about 20 households odd that will be directly impacted and will lose the ability to park their vehicles. Again, this was a almost obstructed and hidden proposal, which seems to be taken forward by Network Rail without any consultation, and residents have knocked on my door and said, what can we do about it? They have complained, it has been officially raised, but again, it comes under this umbrella as far as they're concerned, because it's all about traffic, noise and parking, and they're not being addressed. So I just wanted to stress that and add it.
Okay, anybody else? Would you like to make, anybody would like to make a proposal? Would you like to make a proposal?
I'd like to propose that we make a comment on this application, noting that the traffic and parking concerns raised by residents, as well as our previous comments, have not been addressed sufficiently. Does anybody have any questions?
So,
Thanks.
1 second.
Anything else that you want to?
Do we know whether the crossing is going to be permanently closed or going to open every quarter of an hour or whatever?
May I speak to that?
Yes, you can.
Of having read through this wealth of documentation provided by Network Rail on the planning website, I'm happy to say that there's currently no consideration for closing it. Improvements like the double yellow lines and a note that there will be a much increase in frequency of trains passing. So at the moment it's very low because of other issues, but that's likely going to see a massive increase. So yeah, every 15 minutes sounds about right from what I've heard.
So, proposal's been seconded. All in favour of the proposal? Anybody against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much for everybody's input.
Next item, Chair, is the planning application
Yes.
beginning 22-00524. This item was included in the agenda in error, and I would ask that that's withdrawn.
So that item.
Well, it's too late for council to comment on it in any event.
Okay, so
It was an error in the system. Maybe apologise. Yeah.
So we're going to be withdrawing that item off the agenda. Item 2. So item 3 is 12 Montserrat Court into Leeds. This item is in your pack on page.
We've got the pack in front of me, Chair.
69 to 80.
what is it?
69 to 80.
69 to 18 on your tablets. That's one throughout. So this is a ancillary building, which they're about to knock down the existing building and erect an ancillary building. And to me, this looks like an annex into the back garden. Looking at the plan drawings, it's a dwelling, probably a one-bedroom dwelling with an ensuite with living accommodations. Any concerns by members? No concerns?
The usual concern with these ancillary buildings is whether they, they're obviously acceptable within planning legislation. I think the concern is whether there's any possibility of it becoming a standalone dwelling and whether the access and parking spaces being met, or there's any danger of a separate access, the impact it would have on the surrounding houses.
Yeah.
That's what is usually considered, I think, with an ancillary building.
And out of character with the surrounding area. The precedent is it's all important.
There's a bit of detail here, and obviously we don't know whether there's an actual kitchen inside there. So is it a self-contained unit? Can it be rented out to one couple that will have to pass through their garden or up by where the possible garage is? It's again, they're looking at putting their self-contained dwelling there. Now, I think there needs to be a little bit more detail, so that we can understand exactly what's there. But obviously, could there be a parking issue as well? Have you got any concerns, Ron?
No.
No concerns.
I don't know Newton's that well. I don't know Newton.
Well, if you look at the plan drawings, it's very tight.
Yeah.
It's very tight in that location anyway, in respect to the houses and the type configuration of the houses. And obviously, it's just a small. Newton's got small roads, so I'm just interested in sort of a parking situation going on, considering we're going to have another one-bedroom self-contained unit there. Do you know what I mean? So, excellent.
Yeah, I share the concerns that were raised earlier as in general about traffic and parking, but I'm also concerned that it might set a precedent for others in this quite content space to say they've been allowed it, so we're going to do it too, and turn the little green space that we've got into some form of accommodation. So it could exacerbate the problem. My concern would be that it sets a precedent for something that will change the entire neighbourhood.
Almost overdevelopment, isn't it?
That's one argument that could be advanced if you are convinced that the footprint of that building is occupying too large a portion of the site.
Yeah.
That is something you could consider. One approach might be to say that you don't object, but you have concerns and you would wish the planning officer to be satisfied that it wasn't overdevelopment and there wasn't any danger of access or harm. It's just a suggestion, or you can object, it's a matter for you. But you need to be sure you've got a material planning ground, and it's not an unlawful development unless you can show that it's not compliant with the local plan in some way.
Could we object on the grounds that the clerk has just suggested?
So,
I would go with that suggestion.
So,
To object on those grounds.
I'm not sure what I said. I think I said that what you could do is say you could object if you are convinced.
Yeah.
If you are convinced that it's taking up too large a portion of the footprint and would be overbearing for the surrounding houses.
Well, I would have said that once you start to object, once you start to build these little annexes into back gardens, setting precedent in the area, and it's very condensed, looking at the plans, and obviously we don't know why they're wanting to build that in the back garden. It could be for all sorts of reasons, but once you start making precedents in the back garden, you set precedent in the whole area. And I think overdevelopment is something that we've got to consider.
Can I propose then that we object on the grounds of setting a precedent for overdevelopment, or that we concern in general with the overdevelopment? Is a stronger reason.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
All in favour?
Yes.
So guys. Sorry about this pain a bit.
Next item. Oh, yeah.
Just
So I see.
Item
9.4.
9.4 for a new licence for a scrap metal dealer in Bond Avenue, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Any suggestions?
I'll support it. Give the bloke on the other one side.
Primarily, it's the noting, Chair, unless someone has
That's the notion. Have you got any objections?
Yeah, but you.
There's no problem just noting.
well, unless you evidence it, it will go through the licensing process. There's the opportunity for the town council to involve itself if it has good reason to, but obviously the presumption would be that it will be a satisfactory arrangement. Unless you've got evidence to object to it.
So, all in favour of noting? Yeah. Okay. Right, so item 10 on the agenda, to consider proposals which put forward in May annual meeting of electors that Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council should consider employment of a parking education officer, which was spoken to earlier on by one of our residents, Roger Bradbury. Anybody wants to speak on this item?
Can I just clarify? So they won't actually have any powers to do any tickets or making them actually move or anything like that?
Education only.
So education only.
So can I just get Delia to sort of like clarify what the role and responsibility of a parking education officer is?
Well,
just to clarify what that means.
there is a proposed job description in my report, which is based on the job description that has been used for the West Bletchley Parking Education Officer. And if I just read from that, I'm sure
It's in the packs. It's in the packs.
but the purpose of the role is to work in partnership with local schools, businesses, statutory bodies and learning residents to develop and implement parking education programmes across Bletchley and Fenny Stratford. So I guess there is no possibility of town and parish councils being able to enforce or issue fixed penalty notices for parking matters. They can only be issued for environmental.
We're going to go with Sam, Marie.
What's happening with the planters we've meant to have, that we're meant to be going halves and halves with Milton's Council, which were proposed last year to stop the parking on that project, is to be delivered during the financial year 23 to 24, so that won't be delivered during the course of this year. But I would add that
a community infrastructure scheme that was due to be delivered by the end of March. Last year was still not delivered. So I'm not hopeful that it will be very quick, although we are pushing for that to be done as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Marie,
Just to clarify, apart from it costing the taxpayer more money, is there any funding towards this role? Is there a budget coming from anywhere else? Or is it just the town council paying for it?
It would have, as the report says, we don't have any allocation for it in this year's budget, and I not think of anywhere that we could get funding for this post from.
yes. Aisha.
Right, I can take you to the county's estate now where he's had no effect whatsoever. I should think there's between 50 and 100 regulations being broken every night from that estate alone. So it's a total waste of money.
Okay. Thank you for your concerns, Aisha.
I think it's a complete waste of money employing someone to go and talk to people about parking and educating people about parking. People know, people who drive know about the parking laws. There shouldn't be parking. There should be wardens out there doing their job 9 to 5 and telling people they shouldn't park there, giving them tickets as they should. Employing somebody else is wasting taxpayers' money.
Right.
We should invest our money in something else. Maybe employ someone to keep the streets clean, tidy, flower the bugs and the planters that we are going to be putting there. Something more productive. I don't agree with that. I think it's just
Excellent.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The question I had is in part answered, I think, by me. So what's the success of this role at West Bletchley Council? What's the impact that role has had?
The only information I can provide is the information that I've had when I consulted with West Bletchley Council about their view of the success of having a parking education officer. And their view was that it was very successful in that it had been particularly successful around parking around schools, surge parking, and those sorts of circumstances. Obviously, they don't have the town centre and Breezeway and the sort of parking that we have in Queensland. So their view was that it was successful, and I did ask whether, if the council was minded, whether West Bletchley Council would be open to allowing us to use their parking officer on a trial basis to try it out on our side of the railway line. And the view was that the parking education officer was at full capacity with his work and they couldn't spare him because it was so rapid.
Thank you. If I may, I would like us to consider this very carefully and look at what objectives would we set that are measurable so we can think about how this £37,615 per annum is actually returning in value to the community. And I'm supporting the views of Councillor Eamon and Aisha. I think my gut feeling is that money might be better spent on other activities related to this topic. But in any case, I would like us to discuss this in more detail on what's proposed, that we put this to the Environment and Planning Committee, perhaps?
I disagree. I think it should stay up for committee. It's only a
One
small
minute,
group.
One minute, guys.
Well, as you know, I see it all the time because I live on top of it. And even though this is a good idea in this collection, it definitely wouldn't work in central Bletchley. For the simple reason, it's a different class of people parking. They only come here to go to certain areas. They are very abusive, violent. I was talking to a resident whose relation is a traffic warden who was physically assaulted and put in hospital. And they're often spat at as traffic wardens. We've got traffic wardens that will not come to Bletchley because they are afraid. So, you know, I feel you're putting this guy at risk.
Keith.
She.
I think we've all fed up to the back teeth with parking in Queensway, Brooklands Road, Duncan Street and other places as well. But I think that we need to consider this with our other priorities that we've got. We know we've got others that we all want to see. So my suggestion would be is that when the budgets come up for next year, we certainly haven't got any money for this year, that's allocated. But when the budgets come up for next year, that this is considered together with our other priorities to see where the money we think should be better spent. Therefore, that's what I'm proposing, Chair.
I second that.
So we've also got, on top of that, we've also got to think of the impact on the budget and the impact on the precepts and value for money. And I echo Ron's sentiments regarding parking and the areas of concern, Queensway being the biggest concern and being needed by all the residents at Queensway is possibly the biggest issue in our town centre, which is different dynamics than West Bletchley itself. Good evening, Mr. Hugh. Welcome to full council. So I'm just, I would just echo the concerns about precepts and adding more money to the budget for next year. So
Chair, you've got a proposal.
I was going to get it.
Sorry.
So we've got a proposal from Councillor Ely, seconded by Councillor Wyman. All in favour? In fact, can we just hear your proposal again? Sorry, Councillor, we're on item 10 on the agenda. We're on item 10 on the agenda to do with education officer. We've had some views around the table that possibly it's not going to be value for money, and we've got a proposal from Councillor Ely and seconded by Councillor Wyman with regards to Wyman. Sorry. I've got bad throat, sorry. So we've got, can you just say the proposal again so that Councillor June could hear it?
That the council considers this proposal in conjunction with our other priorities at the appropriate budget setting time. Sound right?
I mean, under the carpet.
So,
Under the carpet.
all in favour of that proposal? Everybody against it?
Thank for that, or is it just something to
Sorry,
38.
It will probably be over for January, probably.
The budget will be set in January.
Yeah.
the budget will be set in January. So we'll be thinking about it just before that. So it's next year's budget if possible. Okay.
Different dealings.
No, mine's getting used to it.
Okay, so moving on.
See you later.
Moving on to item 11. Moving on to item 11, to consider proposals for a street name and address of the new housing development on Albert Street. Developers wish to name the street Beacon Place, which I think that Milton Keynes Council are not happy about, but they've got another proposal.
Sorry. No, that's not the case. Milton Keynes Council suggested Alnwick Place, which was an approved name on the list, and the developers suggested Beacon Place.
It was
the other way around.
Yeah. So Milton Keynes, yeah.
Sorry, what was the other name?
Alnwick Place.
Alnwick Place.
Yeah.
Are any of them relevant to the area?
So,
I'm not aware of any connection
yeah.
specifically.
I was going to say that if we wanted to make a recommendation to either the Milton Keynes Council or the planners in respect of choosing a name that's more historical to Bletchley and that would reflect the streets around Bletchley, that would be something for us, the town council, if anybody comes up with a suitable name. Councillor Hugh.
So
It's really interesting the names around Central Bletchley, just that end of Central Bletchley. So you've got Princess Way, you've got Dynasty, you've got Sovereign's Close, you've got Albert Street, you've got Queensway. There's something there in terms of connections with royalty, and there's a bit of a theme there. You've got Lord's Close, I think, as well. There's some dominant broader streets around.
Baron's Close.
Yeah, Baron's Close. There's a bit of a theme there, and I don't think the two names that appear on the agenda fit that theme whatsoever. I've not given it any thought, but it would be probably quite sensible to have a think about what sort of names can fit around that theme. I give a Republican way.
I propose that is a second what Councillor Hume saying, that it should be in keeping with the name and convention for that area, and I propose, humbly submit my proposal to the council, King George Place.
King George.
Or something in keeping. Oh, yeah, I'm not a monarch.
Queen Elizabeth.
Catherine Place.
Yeah, Catherine.
Catherine Place, yeah, is even better.
Yeah, name the street after. Why not?
But surely as we near Bletchley Park, would Enigma Place be better?
But don't forget, Ron, you've got
On side of the railway on
on
Sunday.
the side in Bletchley Park names like names, haven't you?
Or Elizabeth, after the Queen.
I think Elizabeth actually works really well. Elizabeth.
So, yes, so did we have a proposal?
I propose Elizabeth Place.
I second that.
Councillor, did you have a proposal?
I think I was just saying if you call it Elizabeth Court, you've got to have some jesters along there too. But yeah, no, I think Elizabeth Court is a sensible. So it's on place there.
Just one thing. Remember that we have got Elizabeth Square already, slightly different location.
Good pleasure. Catherine.
Catherine, yeah.
Don't forget that Elizabeth Square is not a recognised name. It's not a postal address.
Oh.
It's in fact, if you remember, the name that was there has now been taken down and gone. It doesn't appear on any of these city maps or anything.
It's always Bletchley Road anyway. Did it went to Queen?
So all in favour of the proposal for, what was it?
Elizabeth Place.
Elizabeth Place. Seconded by that's all in favour.
So Catherine.
Anybody against? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
That's the proposal from.
The floats.
The more we call it bold. What a duffel.
Try and find a group that conflicts decision council. Okay, so we're moving on to, is it item 12 on the agenda, meeting these matters. To note, the development on its construction of section 2 of the new Bletchley Redway route, which is in your packs, being bundled. Notes.
I can speak to this.
Yes, you can.
Thank you. Members will remember that previously you agreed in principle to an easement over the land that we have been leased to allow the construction of section 2 of the new Redway. Following on from that agreement, the City Council has since written to us and said that they'd now prefer, rather than an easement, they would prefer that the land be transferred, the land for the Redway be transferred to the City Council. I only received that information and the heads of terms which are in your pack in the middle of last week, and I haven't had a chance to speak to our solicitors about it. But I don't, from my experience, I wouldn't anticipate that transfer of land is any more of a problem than an easement. It would only be the land that the Redway is on. So really this matter's on the agenda for you to approve me to seek legal advice about the transfer of land and to give an indication of whether you approve this in principle, so that the City Council can get on with the work as quickly as possible. And I'd suggest that it's deferred, that any future decisions are delegated to finance and governance on this matter.
What Delia said, yes, I think that's a good way forward. I don't have any concerns either way.
Second that.
All in favour to,
that land, is it two splits? It's splits, it's called two splits, isn't it?
can
Down.
you speak up because I can't hear
Two
you?
splits down, which is a shovel right now. How deep, how much of the land is it? Do we own underneath it, or we just own a bit, or the two splits down?
You'll find that if whoever owns both sides of the highway, if ever it's extinguished, the land reverts back to the frontage owners, which will be us.
You all understand that?
Yeah. You clearly didn't.
So,
You did you?
I understand.
Oh, right, okay.
Excuse me.
You know what split is then?
I've got, so all in favour of the proposal to allow Julia to continue with this and seek legal advice and move forward with this project and to revert back to Finance and Governance Committee? All in favour?
Yes, just to remind you that City Council have agreed to pick up the Town Council's legal costs on this matter. And we will need to get Taylor Winnick's agreement because it's a couple.
Okay. And so to approve, item 2, to approve the request for the spending of the S106 money arts fund alongside the roadway at Newton Leeds. Want to be clear?
I think it's pretty clear from the paperwork, Chair, that the public arts team has offered £31,460 and 75p towards provision of artwork alongside the new Bletchley, and that's coming from the Section 106 agreement for development.
Any concerns?
Let's hope it's something better than we've had in the past.
So do we approve? All in favour?
Yeah.
Item 13.
Fenny Stratford.
Item 13, to approve the resubmission of plans application for Signal House Hall following the completion of the emerging back survey. Just have a look.
I'm happy to speak to it. I'm happy to speak to it if you wish that.
Does anybody want to
Members of the Sycamore Buildings Working Group who were present at a meeting that we held last Thursday on this matter, who may wish to speak to it. That direction. Go for it.
Yes, somebody might want to just give a quick update to the council.
The working group met the architect who advised us of the back situation and that we can go ahead and resubmit the application in its present form, which we have already approved, if you remember. But there are some mitigation measures that have got to be taken, which we understand may be straightforward as putting some back boxes up. But the construction will have to start, or the application and planning application must be approved within 12 months of the original survey being done. Otherwise, it's all going to be done again. So there is some urgency to get the application in and for the works to commence. There is no change being proposed from the original drawings that you saw. The only major difference is that the cost of the project will almost certainly have gone up in the 12 months since we first looked at it, so that it will have to come back to council to agree what works and what phasing is to be done. But the recommendation certainly is that the planning application is resubmitted as a matter of urgency.
Excellent.
Thank you, councillor Ewing. I propose that we take that forward with urgency.
I second it. All in favour?
So just for clarity, the application will be submitted as soon as we've got the DNA analysis of the backdroppings, because we need to be able to identify the species when we put in the
Species.
the different species. When the emergent surveys were done, there were no bats using the building at the time when the surveys were done, but it's still identified as a roost. And we need to tell DEFRA and the planning authority which species have been using it as a roost in the past. So we have to have DNA analysis of backdroppings that the ecologist found, which will then go with the planning application, the results of which will go with the planning application.
And the droppings, if you like.
No, not the droppings, no. Not the.
Moving swiftly along.
It's not taken.
Moving swiftly on to item 14 on the agenda, to receive an oral update report on matters concerning Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council neighbourhood plan. And Councillor Hussain, who's not here tonight, but I'm sure the clerk will give us a small update on that. Thank you.
I will, and I'm sure that any members of the steering group who are here who would like to improve what I say will do so.
Yeah.
Councillor Hussain was hoping to join us via a digital link from where he is tonight, but it's not really important. We have a joint meeting of the Fenny Stratford, Bletchley and Fenny Stratford steering group, and the two task forces composed of valiant volunteers who've been doing a lot of groundwork on the neighbourhood plan, scheduled for the 3rd of August, which is next week, next Thursday. And at that meeting, our planning consultants will be present and will be presenting some of the emerging policy ideas which have come from the legwork that has been done by both the development and environment task forces. So that's happening next week. And those emerging policy ideas will be discussed at that meeting and subsequently, and then we're expecting to do a consultation when the school holidays are over on the development of those ideas. The funding window at locality for neighbourhood plan funding has reopened today, and so I have begun the process of reapplying for funding for the neighbourhood plan. If you recall, we had to pay back the portion of grant that was unspent because work wasn't completed last year. So we'll now be in a position to reapply for that funding to use this year. So other than that, I don't feel as if it's a lot for me to say, but I'm happy to answer any questions. And Councillor Humes on the steering group as well, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer questions as well. Councillor Warren.
One, yeah.
No, you're not just doing.
Any questions from councillors regarding the neighbourhood plan? I would really suggest any members of the public to get involved with the neighbourhood plan and come to some of these meetings. It's critical again to hear from the public, to get them engaged with the process, because it is an important document for Bletchley and Fenny Stratford areas. Having a neighbourhood plan would feed into the Milton Keynes plan and would not virtually stop any developers coming in and doing what they like, but they would have to work within inside the framework of Milton Keynes overarching plan, but also taking the views of local residents and the Bletchley and Fenny Stratford neighbourhood plan. So it's important that residents get involved in the process and contact the town council to see how they can be involved. Any other questions from any members? Is it item 16? No, 15. Item 15 on the agenda to receive the clerk's update report on the recent town deal matters.
The written report, Chair, I think
Yeah, so
it's right, it's for noting,
so
unless anyone has questions.
there's a written report in your pack. You should have read your reports, so it's for noting. But I see that Councillor King.
So I do wonder whether there's something that we need to do more in terms of noting, particularly around the transport hub, and whether we need to be saying anything more on this than just giving our clerk some unanimous support, some clear support for a transport hub and Eastern entrance. My understanding is that some of this is being challenged, particularly the Eastern entrance. It's a challenging position that it may or may not happen depending on negotiations with Network and government. Could you give us an update on the position of the transport hub and the Eastern entrance, a bit more detail on what the blockers are?
I think that the big concern with the Eastern entrance is that is the funding of the Eastern entrance. My understanding from all the documents I've read and the feedback that is coming from Network Rail is that the aspiration for an Eastern entrance is still there. As your representative at the Town Deal Board, I have always put forward the Town Council's resolved position, which is that it supports the Eastern entrance. It's very much a favour of an Eastern entrance. And, you know, that's what I've always done, and until you tell me differently, I'll continue to do that. However, there have been voices within the Town Deal Board that feel that there should be more focus on improving the Western entrance, because that's there is no certainty that that funding will be available for the Eastern entrance. So there have been comments made.
So I favour it more the Western entrance, which is facing away from the town.
I think the comments that have been made are that the Eastern entrance would be nice to have, but potentially it may not happen, and therefore improvements should be made to the Western entrance.
So are we going to move the bus centre of buses to the other side as well?
Councillor, these are not my comments. I'm just.
Oh, no, that's what I'm just putting it out to everybody.
Yeah,
you know, we're moving it.
Has been suggested.
Trying to keep the two transport hubs together as one hub.
No, I wasn't. I've got in my hand.
Oh.
I think on that basis, I think it would be good if we had someone that gave more ammunition to the car in terms of reaffirming our support for an Eastern entrance, and it is vital for the redevelopment of the town centre, particularly with East West Rail. And I would, as part of that, is maybe to send a letter to our local MP and also to the East West Rail consultation, highlighting again the importance of the Eastern entrance. I'm sure a form of words could be agreed separately to the meeting. Does that would that add some support? Wait.
I think it would add clarity to the Town Council's position.
We're so close because the steps are there, the lift shaft's there, everything's there. You see that little bit of a slope to cross over, and you're down by the two cats, and it's there, isn't it?
No, seconding if he is what Constellation was suggesting.
So, Councillor Hume's got a proposal, seconded by Councillor Axel. All in favour? Yep. Financial report showing income and expenditure against the budget to June, 30th of June 23. If that's to note. Any questions by any councillors regarding that? So that's to note. Yep. Item 17, to ratify a list of payments due to be made to the council for the next meeting of Finance and Governance Committee.
Right.
To ratify. All in favour?
That's fine.
Right, that brings this full council meeting to a close. Thank you very much for all your help. Thank you.